Adrian Rodgers from Ohio State University that will deliver about how to join with the Ohio State University, how the applicant and etc. For Adrian Rodgers. Are you ready, sir? Hello, Rogers. Are you there?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and
Okay.
do it.
You have 30 minutes for deliver the material. So just enjoy the time. The screen is yours.
Okay, namaste, Adrian dari Universitas Negeri Ohio. So this is a very special day and a very special hour in America. As you can see, it's very dark. And in 30 minutes, we will have a lot of fireworks that will celebrate Independence Day in America. And there is nowhere I would rather be with my batik shirt on than right here with you. I thought it was especially appropriate because to go and pursue a graduate degree, I think is sort of it represents an independence, right? So if I could get a call out, or here we go, just give me a head nod if you can see my PowerPoint screen there.
Yes,
have
we
a
can
head
see.
nod. Great, good, yep, super,
Yep.
great. So my
Great.
presentation today, really, it's really not about applying to Ohio State University. It's really about applying to any foreign graduate school, SDUA or STIGA, using any funding that you can find. And you are welcome to contact me at my email address, which is here, at my WhatsApp number, which is here. You can look at my website, which is here, which is filled with advice about applying to foreign graduate school. If you do WhatsApp me, I just ask you to not write me and say, hi. I get like 10 junk emails a day, WhatsApp emails a day with, pretty girls saying hi. So if you could just WhatsApp me and say, hi, I'm Moretta Della Rosa from UNESA, and I am an OSU alum, or I have questions about, and then that will start the conversation. So I'm a faculty member at Ohio State University. With regards to LPDP, I just met last month with Pak Asman and Pak Dwi Larso at LPDP to talk about Ohio State University and where we are on their list. So we are on the affirmasi list. We are on the civil service list. We are not on the general list. So that helps you to understand where we are. Pak Yos was just saying how he has MOA with many universities. At Ohio State University, we have an MOA with 15 Indonesian partner universities. Our partnership with Indonesia is 15 times bigger than our next partnership with any other partner, any other countries. So, with China and Korea and other countries, we have one MOA with one university, but with Indonesia, we have 15 university partners all signed on to the same MOA. And also, I have been to Universitas Mula Warman in Samarinda twice. I've been a consultant there for their English program, and I've also presented at Universitas Cenderawasih in Jayapura. I've been to Indonesia 52 times over the past 12 years, and I'm the faculty representative of the Indonesian Association at Universitas Negeri Ohio, and have also worked with students who are trying to come into the Ohio State University with many different kinds of scholarships, LPDP, Fulbright, USAID, Ministry of Religious Affairs, and even privately funded using graduate assistantships. So been on all of their committees. I've published in this area, so I have a chapter in a book. This really is not so much relevant to students. This might be more relevant to policymakers, people who work at LPDP. And what I did was I looked at all of the Indonesian applicants to the Ohio State University in Fakultas Pendidikan, and then kind of looked at challenges that they faced in their application, challenges that they had in funding, and thought about what are all of the things that need to happen in their application. And they are kind of, discussed in this chapter in this book. But something that I realized is, after you put in your application, many things have to happen to the application in about a 4-month span. I call these touches, right? Somebody has to go in, look at something, and do something. And basically, every 8 to 10 business days after you apply, somebody has to go in and do something to your application. And there are about 24 of those contacts or 24 of those touches that occur between your time of application and you sitting in a seat in a class in August 21st, which is the first day of class at Ohio State University. So I give this advice at this website. And if you want to go ahead and copy this link now, I'm going to go ahead and drop it in the chat. Hang on a second while I do that. Hopefully I've done this correctly. Yeah, here we go. And so you can go to that website and then you'll see the advice that I give. Really, everything that I'm going to say in our session today is based on that website. And something that I want to do is just kind of walk you through the website now. So if you can give me just a head nod if you're seeing the website there. Yeah, I think you are. Are you seeing a website? Give me a head nod if you
Yes, we can.
do. Good, okay. So if you click on Indonesian travelers to the US, Pakios was talking about short-term visiting scholars for 1 semester. So if you click on that button, you can learn about visiting scholars. But this is for degree-seeking applicants, and then you'll see sort of an introduction to materials. You'll see how to look for funding. And then you'll see the application process. And then as you walk your way down through the application process, you'll see different tabs here at the bottom that talk about the topics which we are going to talk about now, including a video that I did at America in Jakarta in Pacific Place Mall on the 5th floor a few years back, about when I was 20 kilograms heavier. So you can enjoy that video presentation, but that really takes you through a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today. So now, with that in mind, let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation and look at some of the highlights. So do you see the PowerPoint presentation on your screen again? And I see a yes, that's great. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is this is going to be like the whoosh train from Bandung to Jakarta, which I just wrote on back in May, a couple of months ago, right? The preparation program to apply to foreign universities, it can take 2 years. You really need to be on this about 18 months in advance. And you have to decide, I really, really, really want this. I want to do it. I want to fully commit to it. I want to, make this one of the primary objectives in my life as I go through the preparation process. I want to go, when I go over there, I really want to commit to it full time. Yes, there will be some time for you to go to Florida and see Mickey Mouse and to go to Las Vegas and to see other fun US destinations. But most of your time is going to be spent working on your degree. And then when you graduate, most importantly, we want you to go home, go back to your home university. Don't linger, don't stay. You have an amazing scholarship. I don't know of any other scholarship like it in the entire world, LPDP, a full ride scholarship, 2 years for SDUA, 4 years for STIGA. And then the only thing that they ask is that when you come back, when you finish, you come back promptly, and then you fulfill your commitment to the Republic of Indonesia. And in Indonesia, they do have mandatory retirement. So the country does look for a return on its investment, and time to degree is carefully tracked. So we want you, everybody wants you to finish quickly as you can and then go back home and then contribute to your country. And your prospects will be bright, right? So the people I know, the alums I know who have graduated, they go on to become the secretary of the department chair, the dean of the program. I just spent a couple of months ago some time, I was blessed to spend time with the president of Universitas Pendidikan Indonesian, who is an OSU alum. So, your future is bright if you undertake these foreign graduate studies. My job here today is not to say, OSU, what a great place to go. But instead, it is to focus on foreign studies. Go somewhere, get funding to go somewhere, study somewhere. There are great graduate schools in Indonesia. There are also great graduate schools outside Indonesia. And the idea is fit. So Pacquiao said that word. I listened very carefully, and he said that word earlier about fit. We want you to find the perfect place for you, whether it's in Indonesia or outside Indonesia. The last thing that I would say is, just like the whoosh train, you would say, maybe I cannot ride the whoosh train. Maybe I am the economy seat in the slow local train. So what I would say is, if you want it, you can do it. So do not suffer from imposter syndrome. You are here today. If you are here today, you have the cultural capital to embark on this journey. And if you can get the money to ride the whoosh train, you can ride the whoosh train. And so what I want to do now in the rest of our session is talk about you getting the resources you need to embark on this journey in foreign graduate study. So with that in mind, as I was saying, Pacquiao's talked about fit. So these are Lego blocks. They just seem to be a jumble of blocks. But when they fit together, when the blocks fit perfectly together, they can make something amazing, can't they? Isn't that amazing when these plastic blocks fit together perfectly, as little Lego plastic blocks can do? They can make something amazing, and they can take you somewhere. So that's the idea of fit. And the only way that you can identify the fit, the perfect fit for you, is to do a lot of Google searching, right? Looking at departments, looking at universities that have degree programs in your area, finding the faculty who are publishing in this thing that exactly on what you want to study, and then finding out, where do those faculty work? And then finding out, can I get scholarships to those places? So that's what we mean by perfect fit, right? Who's doing the things you want to do? Where are they? And how do I get the money to go to that place? So with that in mind, we start our journey. We're going to start talking about scholarships: LPDP, Fulbright, USAID, OSAID, UK British Council, Netherlands Scholarship, JASO from Japan, and many others. And we'll talk about something that all of those programs require, and that is an English score. So LPDP, you can just Google. That's what I do when I want to see if OSU is on the LPDP list. Do understand that with LPDP, they have more than one list, right? So they have the affirmasi list for people from rural areas. They have the civil service list for people who have passed and are passed the civil service exam, and they are civil service employees. So if you wear the uniform, you're a civil service employee, right? They have programs especially for Ministry of Religious Affairs, for general consideration, and so on. Fulbright, open to anyone who wishes to come to the United States. USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, they have very specific programs that are targeted toward USAID priorities, often in public health and other kinds of initiatives. We had somebody here studying on a USAID scholarship in technology, somebody else, the technology ed, somebody else studying in forestry. AusAid, which is the Australian scholarship, UK British Council, the Netherlands scholarship, and then Japan. Something that's related to this is the English score. So the English scores that I will use today for Chanto, for example only, are paper-based TOEFLs. The paper-based TOEFL is not used anymore, but I use it for a very specific reason today, for the purpose of illustration. So typically, the paper-based TOEFL score that is required for the United States, Canada, Australia, Britain is 550. That would be conversational English. The paper-based TOEFL score that is required for the Netherlands and Japan and some other countries is 450. So the reason I mentioned about paper-based TOEFL score is if you just cannot crack, you cannot get above 500 on the TOEFL. It could be your dream of studying outside Indonesia. It is not over. Instead, focus on Netherlands and Japan. But if you can crack the 550 paper-based TOEFL score, then in addition to Netherlands and Japan, other countries will be open to you, right? So, United States, Canada, Australia, Britain, and so on. So that's why that score is important. And I will talk about English scores a little bit more in a moment. The last thing that I would say,
Adrian,
yeah.
could you enlarge the PowerPoint?
Ooh, oh boy. Oh, I do not have a lot of experience doing these kinds of things.
It's actually in the below, in the bottom on the right one. If you yes.
Okay. So the last thing that I would say is beware of something called crabs in a trap. So if you ever go out, if you happen to know any fisher people, and they go out and they get these crabs in their trap, something that the crabs will do is when a crab tries to get out of the trap, the other crabs will try to pull them back in, right? So when you go to your family and you say, I want to work, I want to teach overseas, I want to go overseas, I want to get a degree to go overseas, they're all going to try and pull you back. Your mom will miss you. Who will take care of the house? What about the citizenship of your kids? So all of these things will come up, and to which you can reply, we have Zoom. I will fly home. I will fly mom over to see me. I will come back to check on my house, right? I mean, it's just a quick 26-hour flight from the United States to Indonesia. It's just a quick 8-hour flight from Australia to Indonesia. It's just a quick 7-hour flight from Tokyo to Indonesia, and you are not flying the plane. So my point being, we live in a global village now, right? We're not taking a boat. So we're going to sit in a plane in the back row of economy, watch movies, and eat free food while we fly to our destination. So just do not let people kind of hold you back, right? If you think you can do this, go do it. All right. So now the next question is, where do we apply? So one thing to consider is, there we go. Who will give you the funding? Will it be LPDP? Will it be Fulbright? Will it be USAID? Will it be British Council? My suggestion on this is apply everywhere. Apply everywhere you can. Wherever you can get money, go for it, right? I mean, your chances of getting the money, a little bit small, so just apply everywhere you can. That would be my suggestion on funding. What about the program and requirements? In addition to getting the funding, what about where you're going to apply? Some programs are more competitive than others, right? So harder to get into Harvard, harder to get into Oxford than it is to get into the Ohio State University. But wait, here at Ohio State, we actually have programs that are harder to get into than others. So in our program in Fakultas Pendidikan, the program that focuses on English as a second language, they probably accept 1/3 of the applicants, right? So very hard to get into that program because they're getting applicants from Korea, from Japan, from China, from all over the world. The program that I work in, which is teaching literacy in school classrooms, there's really no limit to the number of students that we can take. The limit is based on whether you're qualified or not. So we have never had so many applicants that we had to turn them away. Any applicant who is qualified, we will take. So do understand that even at particular universities, in a particular department, different programs can be more competitive than other programs. And so if you were thinking about that, also, I would say at Ohio State University, we actually have 5 different programs in literacy, right? So we have literacy in culture, literacy in school teaching, literacy in the arts, English as a second language. So all of these different programs, the faculty sometimes overlap. The coursework, some of the coursework that you will do is the same, right? So folks end up in the same courses sometimes. So, you want to get an understanding of the competitiveness of the program and try to maximize your opportunity in getting accepted. Another thing to think about is the faculty advisor. So when your materials are reviewed, it'll go through multiple review processes, but one of those will be faculty sitting down to review your materials. So in my department, the materials are sent out. We get a web link for each student. We open up that link. We see all of the materials you submitted. And the question from the person who sends that email, there's 2 questions, right? It's an A and a B. A, do you recommend admission? And B, would you be the advisor? So we have had situations where we all recommend admission, but we did not want to advise. And then we have turned that student down, right? So everybody thought it was a great student, but we just did not see the fit. Remember the Lego blocks at the beginning? We did not see the fit between that student and what we were doing. So for that reason, when you apply to a particular program, I recommend that you go and do research that program online, find the faculty members who teach in that program, look at the articles that they have been publishing, think about, is that something that I want to write about and learn more about? And if it is, mention at least 2 of those faculty names in your application. This is a challenge with Fulbright, because with Fulbright, they only prepare one application package, and then they send the same application package to 4 or 5 universities. So the Fulbright students do not get a chance to do this. But with LPDP, you would get a chance to do this because you can customize your own application for each university. And the reason we think it's important to name at least 2 people is, one person may have just retired. They may have transferred or left or, gone to another university. They may be on sabbatical this next coming year. They may be sick. They may have passed away, right? I mean, you might be looking at articles from a couple of years ago. That person's passed away. So for that reason, if you could mention at least a couple of faculty members in the program, that will help situate. It will help us make the fit between your application and who will be able to advise at the host university. The last thing that I would talk about as a part of the application process is the graduate records exam. So that used to be a requirement at many universities. At The Ohio State University, it's no longer a requirement for the university, but it is for some programs. So in other words, some programs require it, some programs do not require it. So it depends on the program. So you want to study to see if the GRE score is required for the particular program that you are applying to. What we usually see is Indonesian students do not do well on this exam. This exam is very, very culturally specific to the United States and to the coursework that you do in your first and second year here. And if you did not do S1 in the US, your first and second year here, you will likely not do well on the GRE exam. I did not do well on my GRE exam. So, because I did study at Ohio State for my graduate degree. So what I would say is, some programs really, really want this score, but if it is not required by your program, do not report it anyway, right? So if they don't have to have it, don't put it in. If they don't have to have it and you do poorly, that it will be considered. But if you omit it because it is not required, that's okay. And then I have talked to like engineers, the engineering program and stuff like that, and who said, what do you think of the GRE? And they said, look, we're a college of engineering. We want to see really high scores on quantitative. And then on the verbal section, we don't care. So, right? So we just want to see superior mathematical performance because we're engineers. But how they do in English, we don't care. You know, we have engineers from all over the world, China, Brazil, Japan. And you know, we don't care about that. So my point being, no, whether the program requires it. If it is not required, do not report it. If it is required, do everything you can to do well, especially on the part that is relevant to the degree to which you apply. Okay. So now I want to talk a little bit more about the English score. So English scores are not required if you, at my university anyway, they are not required if you already have S2 from an English-speaking country. So you went to Australia, you know, got your S2, not required for you to come to Ohio State University. Some of you are SATU graduates now. You're seeking to do S2, so probably required unless you did SATU at an English-speaking country. The other thing that I would say is I would encourage you to take the paper-based TOEFL first. These online exams, the internet-based TOEFL, the IELTS, they're very expensive. They're 2 million, 3 million. If you do not live in the same city as a testing location, you have to fly to the testing location. You have to overnight in the city. It just gets very expensive, right? It costs millions and millions of rupiah. But what you can do is take a paper-based TOEFL. So that's the TOEFLs that are no longer accepted. They have expired, but you can take a paper-based TOEFL for like, what, 300,000 rupiah, almost in any city in Indonesia. And that will give you a rough score, right? So if you are consistently getting 550 or above, if you're consistently getting 600, 650, 700 on the paper-based TOEFL, then you know, I'm going to do really well when I go and take the internet-based TOEFL or the IELTS. Right? But if you're getting 300 or 350, then you are probably not going to do well when you do the internet-based TOEFL. So that's one consideration. I think you could just go cheap at first, do the paper-based TOEFL to estimate where you are before you spend any more money. That's the first thing to do. The second tip is if you Google concordance, that word right there, concordance, IBT, IELTS, you will see the approximate equivalence between the two kinds of exams. So internet-based TOEFL is a US-made exam, and then IELTS, I think, is an Australian-made exam. What we have found in our experience is that people do better on the TOEFL, on the IBT, than they do on the IELTS. And that's because IBT is only responding. They don't have to say anything, right? They're just responding to items. On the IELTS, I think it has a speaking portion. So we have found that students generally do well on the IBT. So take IBT before IELTS when you think you're ready based on your paper-based TOEFL score. But there's a couple of exceptions. So recently, I looked up the entrance requirements to George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And the entrance requirements were 100 on the IBT and then 6.5 on the IELTS. Now that's wacky. That's wacky. 6.5 on the IELTS, right, which is the Australian English, exam, equates to 79 on the IBT. So this particular university came up with a really weird score. They had a much higher score for the IBT, the internet-based TOEFL, right? They had 100, which is way higher than the 6.5 that was required on the IELTS. So my point is that for most universities, the entrance requirements should be about the same. But occasionally, you will get a university that has apparently not found Google and Google the words concordance, IBT, IELTS, because if they had, they would find that a 79 on the IBT is worth about a 6.5, maybe a 7.0 on the IELTS. But at George Washington University, apparently they have not done this. And so they sent this huge, this really, really super high IBT score. So if you were trying to get into that university, clearly it's better to take the opposite advice, right? My advice is generally to the IBT, it's an easier test. But if you were trying to get into George Washington University, IELTS is the better test because they have a much lower cut score. So lastly, if you can't quite get there, and this has happened with our students, they can't quite get above the minimum score requirement, then you could consider other countries like Japan or Netherlands, because generally speaking, those universities require a slightly lower cut score. So we were thinking about your application package. You're going to be asked to submit a writing sample. This might include something that you have written before. If you're an S.SATU graduate or an S.DUA graduate, it could be your thesis, your project, it could be a term paper. In addition to this, you'll want to submit your statement of intent, sometimes called your personal statement. I know that with some Commonwealth universities, by Commonwealth, I mean UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, they're looking sometimes for very, very specific statements about what you want to research and with whom you want to research it. In the United States, I can tell you, generally speaking, we don't care so much about that. We just know you're going to come here and change your mind 5 times and that's okay. We want you to change your mind 5 times, preferably in the first semester, maybe the first 2, especially for STIGA, before you kind of settle down and commit to what you want to do. So for that reason, we really don't need a super specific statement of what you want to research. But instead, what would help is to know where you were, where you are, and where you're going, right? So, you know, you did a bachelor's degree because your current job now is, you hope to. That's about 4 paragraph topics. Maybe if you write small, it might be 8 paragraphs, but that's what we're looking for. Where were you? Where are you? Where do you want to go? And how can we help you get there? So that's kind of a logical narrative, right? That makes sense to us. And then the last thing is be sure to identify this why. This is references. So, right, so this is a letter from somebody who knows you. We usually need at least 3 of those. We need that on letterhead, and we need it signed. So if it's not on letterhead, if it's a Word document, not on letterhead, doesn't count. If it's typed, no signature at the bottom, doesn't count. So be sure that the letter you get from your, S.SATU advisor is on letterhead and it has been signed. It should be somebody who knows you, taught you in many courses. It would be great if the person who taught you has graduated from a foreign university, and in their letter they say, as a graduate of, the Education University of Malaysia, or as a graduate of Thammasat University in Bangkok, or as a graduate of Canterbury College in the UK, I can say that, Dewi has what it takes to finish the S.DUA at a UK university. See, so that kind of statement is really great. What we sometimes see with Indonesian reference letters is a checklist, right? So little squares with check marks on it. Don't want to see that. Doesn't help. Suggests that, the person who completed the reference took 2 minutes to write the reference. We really want to see more than that. And often we see from Indonesian universities, Dewi is a great moral character. She's honest. She's a very kind person. We really don't need to see these statements about moral character. We do understand with the Indonesian culture that might be expected for admission to an Indonesian university. It is not expected to a foreign university. So if you put it in, it's okay. It doesn't hurt, but it's not helping. We really want to see reference letters that are at least a page long, probably a page and a half by the time you count the letterhead. They're somewhat recent, right? Not somebody who knows you from 15 years ago, somebody who knows you from last year, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And also is very, very clear that they think that not only are you going to be able to start and do well in the graduate program, but you're also going to be able to finish. So that's very specifically what we're looking for in the reference letters. So only completed applications are reviewed. So you know, it would be helpful if you have the ability to check your submission package online. Did you submit everything? Is everything showing in the window? Do you have your TOEFL score there, right? Is that something you self-reported? Because usually self-reports are not allowed, right? TOEFL has to send your score directly to the university to prevent any kind of fraud. We had a situation a few years back where we needed you to send in 3 reference letters. A student uploaded all 3 reference letters as one PDF document. And then the staff member who reviewed that application for completeness said, oh, it's not complete. They only got 1 reference letter because there's only 1 attachment. And then I went and said, I opened the attachment. There's 3 reference letters in the 1 attachment. They collated it, right? They collated the 3 letters, 6 pages, and attached it as 1 document. But we didn't, as faculty, we did not get the attachment because it was only 1. The staff member had not cleared it. And they, when confronted with this, they said, oh, well, you know, sorry, I can't open every single attachment on every document for all the applicants. So what I would say is, if we ask for 3 reference letters, make 3 attachments. You know, the staff are sometimes, you know, not even opening the attachments, right? They're just counting the attachments. They're not opening them. So just be aware of that kind of thing. So timeline, LPDP, which I think is an absolutely amazing thing. It's what we call a full ride in the US, right? So they give you all the money you need for your housing, for your travel, and for your degree studies. Not every program's like that. So Fulbright, for example, they give you $45,000 for your tuition, but then the university must match. So if it's more than $45,000 for the tuition, the university must match to the amount of the tuition. At my university, we happen to match, but you wouldn't really know. So you sometimes have questions. For that reason, it can be helpful to create a social network, right? So Moretta and Tawfiq today, they're recent graduates of the Ohio State University, right? So if you were interested to apply to OSU, they should be in your social network. Today, you've met me. I should be in your social network. And in that way, you know, if you want to go to Harvard, somebody from Harvard should be in your social network. And in that way, if you have questions as they arise, you can ask your social network about them. And then that person can support and help you in finding answers to what you might wonder about. But we also have to beware. We have to beware that sometimes the social networks are misleading. So recently, in a social network of Fulbrighters, it was said that you must find a university that has a tuition less than $45,000 because Fulbright only offers $45,000 for tuition. But that's not true, right? And that's not true because the people in the social network did not realize that universities match. We match funds. We have a program for that. We've been doing it for decades. So that's a good example of how sometimes the social network can reflect information that's not true. So do develop your social network, but also have multiple sources of information so that if you get disinformation, then, you know, it can be countered with the correct information. And lastly, I would say, especially as you get toward the end, do be checking your email, do be checking your junk email. If you are accepted, you will get timed communications emails that have to be responded to in a particular amount of time, like usually less than a week, to verify certain things. As you get documents, for example, from the U.S. Embassy to come to the U.S., you must interview in person, either at the embassy or the consulate in Jakarta or Surabaya. I don't know if Medan is doing interviews now. During COVID, they stopped for a while. But when you get documents from them, don't alter them, don't laminate them, don't fold them. Just keep them in an envelope that goes with you. And then you'll interview. If you got to the point that you are admitted to a U.S. university, the interview will be straightforward to verify information. So it really won't be, they're not going to test you or anything like that, right? They know that you've gone through very rigorous program and they're supportive of what you've done to get you to that point. So there we have it. Those are the highlights. Again, my goal today was not so much to talk about the merits of The Ohio State University. You know that we are highly invested in Indonesian collaboration, but instead to help you think about applying to foreign graduate schools, wherever they may be. You are always welcome to email me at my email address, to WhatsApp me at my WhatsApp number, especially if you say in your message, my name is, I am from, and I want to know about. Do not say hi. And lastly, to copy that link and to really look, I spent a lot of time developing that website. So do feel free to use the materials that are on it. I think that those materials, while I developed them with OSU in mind, I think they are just completely useful for any university that you apply to outside Indonesia. It doesn't matter the country, does not matter the program. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian, for your presentation. I think we have a lot of insight and have a lot of information for how to get LOA from Ohio State University.